Gears of War is one of those franchises, which is why we own it as bosses. The other big one being Halo. The first Gears of War came out 13 years ago and has made millions of dollars. Personally, I still think that's due to the Mad World commercial from the first one. I played the original 3 games, but I was never really interested in most of the spin-offs. After the first 3, I figured the story was kind of over and had no interest in the 4th one that came out a few years ago. Recently, the 5th game in the franchise came out, and I decided to play through the 4th and 5th game with their co-op campaign. At first I was skeptical, but basically 7 days straight of playing 4 and 5 has gotten me really excited for the franchise again, and I'm really looking forward to the 6th game. One thing that Gears of War has always done better than most other games is their co-op campaign. Being someone who made video games for a while, I can tell you that making co-op experiences are really difficult and require a lot of quality work. So seeing how well they did means that they put that extra effort in and it really pays off. There are some specific scenes where one character will be trapped or the other character will be in a room, and there's a real sense of urgency to regroup with your partner. There are several other elements that are introduced in this game that weren't in previous Gears of War games. One of the big ones being a skill tree feature that was introduced in the form of Jack the Robot, and it felt really useful and it changed the gaming experience. One time I actually reset the game and had to redo his skill trees, and I used different skills and it felt like a different game. The biggest difference between this game and the previous ones were the open world levels. Lately, a lot of single player games have been moving to open world maps. Zelda, God of War were a couple ones that did this successfully. Gears of War is not one of those titles. Out of the 4 acts, there were 2 in the campaign that have an open world element, one of them being this Arctic area and the other being a here-style Middle Eastern desert. I was legitimately excited the first time I stumbled across a secondary mission, especially for this game, which is so linear, but it got old really fast. A lot of times we found ourselves just bored or going around areas that had nothing in them. A lot of the levels were really difficult, and all they offered was some modifications for the skill tree that we ultimately wouldn't use. And all in all, that being said, it just didn't fit. It seemed more like they were trying to rip off Borderlands than focus on making an actually great Gears of War experience. Like, I almost think that they were just sort of testing it out to see if the next game that they worked on, if it was open world, if people would like it. But in the meantime, the players of this game were treated with something that seemed half-assed. The open world just felt more like I was running errands or looking for chores to do instead of actually being on a cool experience. Now I'm going to get into spoilers. For anyone that doesn't want to know what happens in the story of Gears of War 5, you should probably dip out now. Like I said, I played 4 and 5 back to back. I wasn't really into the Gears of War franchise after the 3rd one. I thought the story wrapped up pretty well, but the 4th game really sucked me back in. There were new characters like JD, which was Marcus Phoenix's son, Hate, which ends up being the granddaughter of the Lotus Queen, and Dell, who's, you know, just that guy over there in the corner making jokes. 4th game followed these 3 characters, and it made an actual bond between them, much like the Delta Squad of the first trilogy, and I really appreciate it. There were some characters brought back, like Cole and Baird and Marcus, of course, but I really was more interested in seeing these new characters and their story, which is why I was so disappointed when 5 sort of took a screeching halt to their progress. So the first act of Gears 5 sort of picks up where the 4th one left off, and then it ends with JD getting hurt and then sort of taken off screen. And then the second act, the Arctic level, is all just following Hate and Dell, trying to find more about the history of the Lotus Queen and Hate's connection. And I will admit, it was nice seeing like a little bit of backstory with that, but the levels made no sense, and I really wasn't interested. I don't hate as a main character by any means, but it just had nothing to do with the war that was at hand. And then finally, when the Arctic level ended, everything that was brought up in that was sort of swept to the side. In the 3rd level, they go to another area that's all the desert level. JD comes back, there's more character development, it's more about the war with the Swarm. So not just was the Arctic level boring and tedious, but it also distracted from the story and ultimately had no real bearing on what was going to go on through the rest of the game. Personally, I'm more interested in seeing JD's growth and his relationship with his father, his choice between being a military man and enjoying his freedom, but this game sort of focused way more on the two less interesting characters, which was Hate, which I'm personally not a fan of the Darth Vader storyline where, oh, the bad guy is the parent of the good guy. We don't know what to do with that. And then the worst part of the story was a moment where you had to choose between saving JD or saving Del. So you choose to kill off a character that you've been with the entire game, that you've built some semblance of a connection to, or you kill arguably the main character of the game, the son of the main character from the previous games, and then bat yourself in a corner when the sixth game comes out. So either people played saving Del, and that won't happen in the sixth game, or people save JD and that won't happen in the sixth game. I played both levels, like both endings. They basically are the same ending. They just swap out which characters are sad about the other one being dead. Now, that being said, I do think that there were some serious issues with the story. I don't think a lot of the gameplay elements were executed very well, but I still really loved this game. I loved playing through 4. I loved playing through 5. The gameplay really has me. I'm really invested in this story now. I'm going to choose to think that Del's death was the canon death, and that 6 will focus more with Hate trying to figure out what's up with her mom, who apparently she killed in the 4th game, but that didn't happen. But more importantly, about JD figuring out what to do with his future, how to live with his father, how to live with the death of his best friends, and ultimately how to lead the humans to victory over the Swarm. I'm excited for whenever the 6th game comes out. There's currently no announcement, but in the meantime, I'm going to check out the Horde mode and this Escape mode, and I'm just going to cut a bunch of people in half with my Chainsaw Lancer.